Hey everybody, this is Perch. On social media, which is pretty much the origin point for a lot of stupid things, Dan Slott has been facing a multi-day battle with a variety of people angry at a recent development in his Fantastic Four comic. Now, you might ask yourself, what is this recent development that got everybody so upset? Is it lackluster writing? Is it poor characterization? Is it kind of go nowhere storylines? Is it continuing to meander around the same things while not providing any real payoff to anything? No, it's none of those things. Good guess, but no. It's actually a scene in which Franklin Richards is, well, actually, before I say, I'm going to go into some spoilers for some recent Fantastic Four developments. So if you're reading this comic breathlessly and you don't want to be spoiled by what's going on, then you'll probably want to stop and hop off now, because I'm going to discuss the most recent comic, but more just kind of the things that have been going on for the last 4 or 5 issues. So if you've been trade rating, if you've been like, I love what Dan Slott's doing on Fantastic Four, but I want to consume it all in one sitting in a giant omnibus, then yeah, there's other videos for you out there today. So okay, hopefully you're gone now if you or maybe if you don't care. Spoiler warning: if you don't care, you should jump off now. At any rate. Recently in the Fantastic Four comics, Franklin Richards has, in effect, burned up his powers. Here's a character who has, God-shaping, reality-shaping abilities, as we've seen since the 90s. He was listed as a mutant. I remember there were ads for the Mutant Massacre, or maybe it was Fall of the Mutants. It was Fall of the Mutants, where there was the Mutant Registration Act was... there were these little fake ads in the comics, and it said one of these kids is a mutant, and then Franklin Richards was one of the 4 they'd have there, and so they've had him listed as a mutant for a long time. It's been core to his personality. He's shown up as somebody dating Rachel Summers in the future. He's been in the Immortal Hulk comic as being at the end of time. So there's Franklin Richards has been established as a huge powerhouse, and more recently in Chip Zdarsky's run, at the beginning of the year, there's a comic called Incoming, where you had a bunch of different pages of things that were going to play out. And one of those things was a tease that Mr. Sinister wanted to get his hands on Franklin's DNA because he's collecting kind of powerful mutants, and it would be, for his evil plans, would be good. So then we had the X-Men Fantastic Four, limited series, but written by Chip Zdarsky, where basically it was all about kind of Franklin Richards, and he's seeing some power fading, and it led to a conflict between the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And we learned that there was an inhibitor that Mr. Fantastic had used, and that got removed, and Franklin was able to go to Krakoa and kind of immerse himself in that part of his culture. It was a smart book. It did a good job of connecting 2 series, which Marvel really hasn't done since the X-Men relaunch, and it also opened up a lot of possibilities. I like to think of this as adding more toys to the toy box. It gave the ability for us to discover kind of Franklin in the context of Krakoa, Franklin in the context of a member of the Fantastic Four family. He was somebody set apart, and that was it was clever. So in the 2 issues ago, Franklin Richards, stopping this giant cosmic mess of a threat, burns out his powers, basically exhausts them. And then we see him trying to go through the Krakoan gate to get some help, and he can't. It's closed to him because, in fact, there's no signs of him being a mutant. And he's depressed, and it's bad. So then in the most recent issue, and this is all getting to the part why people are mad at Dan Slott, Franklin Richards is going to use this Forever Gate to get to Krakoa, and Professor X senses that he's about to do this, or he's spying on his mind, or who knows. And Professor X stops in and says, "You are not a mutant. You were never a mutant. As a child, you dreamed of being different, special. Without intending, you used your cosmic powers to alter every cell in your own body till it appeared as though you possessed the X gene. But you didn't have one. You were not a true mutant. You were just kind of faking." And he says, "I'm sure it's come as a shock to you. I have many questions. You're going to have to work out those answers for yourself. I'm sorry, Franklin, but you are no longer welcome on Krakoa." Professor X being a dick, basically. So this is a huge retcon, and when I read it, I rolled my eyes and thought this is a stupid ploy to kind of change what we thought we knew about characters, and in a subtractive way. Just how Chip Zdarsky made a comic that I thought added to what you could do with the character, this subtracts what you can do with the character. Now, and some people disagree with that. I'm sure Dan Slott would disagree with that, because undoubtedly we're now going to get a Franklin Richards who's going to become depressed and, struggle to find powers. And what does it mean to be powerless when you had all this power before and everything else? But it's a tired story. We've seen that story before. Other writers, frankly, more competent writers, have told that story before many times. And it's not anything new. It's a rehash of what other people have done. And in addition to that, it now takes away a lot of what the character was. It takes away good work that was done 4 months ago by Zdarsky in that comic, and so it's subtractive. I think, and I understand as well behind the scenes. There's a little bit of irritation that at Marvel things are so unaligned that you have Zdarsky, a creator who does sell some books and typically has a pretty good reputation behind him, doing one thing, and then you have another writer less than 4 months later kind of undoing it and changing that out, and what's going on at Marvel. So people are mad on Twitter for Dan Slott kind of wrecking a character and retconning something, right? Well, no, wrong. They're mad at Dan Slott because they said that this back and forth between Professor Xavier and Franklin was an analogy for, basically turfing. That's not the right way to use the word. Basically denying trans rights. So the analogy people are drawing is that trans people may, see themselves, believe themselves as a gender. And one of the counter arguments to trans rights is that there's a denial, a way of saying, no, you can't be what you think you are because of this biological reason or whatever. And not to wade all into the whole trans rights debate, but people are drawing a comparison here by saying, Franklin is saying that he was a mutant, and here's Professor X saying, you're not one of us, you're not a mutant, you can't be, and you don't have this gene, so you can't be part of the mutant club. Okay. Aside from the fact, and I think here's an area where I try and see all sides of things, and my videos sometimes come off as me trying to kind of balance various lines. And I do have an opinion in the back of my head. I'm trying to just think through everything, give everybody their fair day in court, so to speak. But this is stupid. I mean, it's hard to even, and I know that it's fun sometimes to try and understand what crazy ideas are in people's heads, but the idea that you're going to take this sequence, which is a tired, overdone, kind of nonsensical sequence in comics, and you're going to want to plow in trans denial and trans right as an analogy into this is just dumb. That's you reaching for a reason to be offended and pissed off. And you could very easily just close the book. You could very easily, and no trans denier is going to read Dan Slott's Fantastic Four and go, aha, here's the evidence I need to deny trans rights. Like that. Listen to yourself. That's insane. Like that. It's just it's the dumbest thing possible. So what is interesting though is as the anger and the controversy rolled through social media, Dan Slott did a pretty masterclass job of showing how not to handle these kinds of controversies. He came out hot and sarcastic, muted and blocked people, and kind of went to the standard old playbook of being kind of irritated. And then he seemed to, I'm guessing that some of his creator networked friends said, hey, actually, we're on the other side on this one. This is a trans rights denial because, of course, we need to get into that. And so then he did a weird abrupt turn where he tried to present himself as being heroic for listening to people. And he did the whole kind of apology, non-apology of, I understand people have things to say and I'm here to listen, not talk. But then he kept talking plenty. And then he weirdly decided to become a victim and talk about, come at me hot on social media and mischaracterize me as a person because you're mad about a comic book. That's a good way to get blocked. Maybe calm down and pretend you're trying to initiate a serious conversation with a fellow human being first. That'd be a good start. It would be a good start, Dan Slott, and you should take your own advice and try having a serious conversation with fellow humans and not treating them like assholes. That's they're giving to you. People tend to give what they get. And Dan Slott has a pretty well-established reputation for being a prick to people online, and then seems to become alarmed and shocked when people are pricks to him. And it goes on with like, hey, comic book guy, you're a scum of the earth, Satan, and all these terrible stereotypes, which I will proceed to go into in great length about in my next post because you'll probably block me now because you're a coward who can't handle criticism. Angry name plus 8 digits, thread number 1 of 18. It's the amount of immediate woe is me kind of tweets that Slott went into did, of course, not help his case at all, and the pile on continued. But it is an interesting case study. So if you're not blocked on social media by Dan Slott, he's run massive amounts of block bots, so odds are you are. But it's a perfect case study to look at it and go, this is what not to do. This is how not to respond to criticism. This is how not to be a snarky prick and then expect that people are going to come at you fairly. It is on and on and on. He goes into how he muted somebody and then he realized that the muted person was still talking. Yeah, that's what mute does, and that it's nicer and fairer and more heroic and brave to just block people in the first place. And it will make your head spin, filled with nonsense. But if you're wondering why is everybody mad at Dan Slott and what's going on, there you go. A lot to unpack there. I mean, it's a fairly boring, by the numbers, Fantastic Four book. That's one thing. This is an uninspired run that really has not much going for it. Despite that, is it fair to say that this is anti-trans rights? No, that's an absurd comparison, and you really have seek help if you really feel like this is going on in this comic book. I'm not now. By the way, trans rights deniers and people deserving to be treated human like people and with rights, absolutely. The pages of the Fantastic Four with a dumb sequence involving Franklin Richards and Professor Xavier is not that is not an equatable thing to it's stupid. It's stupid. That's all I can say. What do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments below. It's a lot of little learnings. We can learn from anything, and this is how to not. I mean, it's how not to write a comic book for one thing, but it's also how not to get offended over stupid, unrelated things, and then how not to respond to criticism in a way that just doesn't make you look like a prick. It is what it is. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, but most importantly, thanks for listening.